So this video that we're reacting to is by a YouTube channel called Good Work. And the title of the video is, Can Money Buy Happiness? Now, I haven't watched the video, so we're watching it for the first time. But if I was to guess before this video starts, so the thing about money is that I think money does buy happiness to a certain point where it's diminishing returns, then you have to find happiness elsewhere. I've forgotten statistically what that figure is, but there is like a figure where like once you've taken care of all your basic needs, money actually can't buy happiness. And if anything, the more you start to make, the more stress you have, and therefore the less happy you are. But let's watch.
Can money buy happiness? It's a question that's vexed humans for centuries. From the discontented kings of old to the sad, rich ambition demons surrounding me here in Manhattan. But no matter how many times it's posed in clickbait articles and pop science podcasts, we simply can't seem to find an answer. But I'm about to change that. I'm here at the happiest place on earth, Harvard Business School. I was in this ivied oasis to meet the man who both wrote a book and talked the TED on money and happiness.
Michael Norton is a professor here at Harvard Business School and a leading behavioral economics researcher. Let's see if he can teach me how to behave. Michael, good to have you here.
I'm sorry, this guy's tone of voice is too funny. And then the way he looks at the camera, that was funny.
All right, or thank you for having us, rather.
Yeah.
With my characteristically smooth exchange of pleasantries out of the way, it was time to turn the screws on Professor Norton and get my answer.
How much money do I need to be happy?
How much do you have?
Not enough.
It's a tricky question, actually. So it's hard to know the exact dollar amount. But what we do know is when we ask people how much they think they need, they typically say 2 to 3 times as much as I have right now. But the weird thing is we can ask people who have $50,000 and they say, if I only had 2 to 3 times more, I'd be perfectly happy. We can also ask people who have $3 million, and they also say, yeah, if I only had 2 to 3 times as much, I'd be happy.
Michael was saying a lot of numbers, that's for sure, but I still wasn't hearing a solid answer. I decided to give him one more try before I used my power to dismiss him with voiceover and move on to another interview with a smarter guy.
So lots of people have looked into the correlation, just straight up, how does money correlate with happiness? And one of the things that we did was we tried to do experiments. So we tried to give people money and have them go do stuff and then see which thing makes people happy and which thing doesn't make people happy. So we were trying to get at not so much how much you make in a year and how happy you are, but what you do with it. The first thing people think to do with money is spend it on themselves. And the problem is, if you look at the data, it's not that spending money on yourself makes you unhappy. It's really just there's not a strong relationship. If we say, have you ever felt happy when you give to charity or give to someone? People say, yeah. And then you say, have you done it lately? And they say, no.
What is a harder concept for business school students to grasp, happiness or giving people money?
I couldn't help but feel like me and Professor Norton simply weren't on the same page. I was explicitly asking him just how much money I needed to make to finally achieve happiness, and he wouldn't stop talking about giving money away. It made no sense. I needed to find someone with as impressive of credentials, but who would actually give me a hard number on which to set my sights.
There's a very famous paper that concluded that there was this plateau between money and happiness beyond around $75,000.
Now we're talking.
Okay, so 75,000, that's the number, because I know I've heard about that study somewhere. Okay, cool.
Matt Killingsworth is a senior fella at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business, where he runs one of the world's largest studies on human happiness. Wharton is an institution of great history, and more importantly, a place where many people learn how to accumulate wealth until happiness oozes out of their pores and the pores of their progeny.
I ran this really big study that had a fantastic measure of kind of the levels of happiness that people experience, and I saw no evidence for a plateau at all. It just keeps going up, modestly but very steadily.
These squirrely academics wouldn't stop overcomplicating the issue, but I could play their game too. You found that money and happiness have a logarithmic relationship. Mm-hmm. Is that different than a polyamorous relationship?
Maybe you could combine them.
I've tried.
So maybe you just need to earn more money, and then you can see what you can put together.
But when you describe a logarithmic relationship, what is it? Is this what you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's a big word for me.
So if you plot this out, you could imagine happiness, and then you have
Yeah, I know exactly how this graph is going to look. Money, right?
money.
Yeah.
Logarithmic basically means
So it's gonna be...
we're going up in proportional increments. So you could imagine each of these hash lines being a doubling of income.
I can imagine it's going to start straight. So as your income goes up, So it's going to go that way. As your income goes up, your happiness, and then it plateaus, basically.
What we used to
graph.
think was happening is that happiness rises up to around this level.
Yep.
Happiness rises.
And then it plateaus.
Doesn't really improve.
Yeah.
And essentially what I found is that this part is basically right, but instead it just keeps going up in a straight line.
So
That's not true. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that, forever, the more money you make, the more happy you are. I don't think that's true.
So people here in general are a lot happier than people here.
They're happier on average. So, I'm squishing all of this down.
Despite the squishing, I was making progress. I now had incontrovertible proof that the more money you had, the happier you got. And the goal was to get as far up this polyamorous red line as possible. But what would it actually feel like to be up there in the top right corner of this whiteboard?
I like to know what his study, I like to read that study and just know what the parameters of the study are, because it's like, really? Does it really go up exponentially like that? Is that true? I don't know. I'm gonna need to read that study.
I asked Matt if his research had turned up an answer.
There are a lot of things we can run experiments with, but money is actually quite a bit trickier because it's so darn expensive to run an experiment where you give people enough money to matter for happiness. But there's a natural experiment. They're called lotteries, and there have been some really great studies that have found that the people who play and win are not only happier than the people who play and don't win, but they followed up 5 or 10 years later and found they continue to be fairly substantially happier.
So we got to meet a lottery winner.
I don't like that idea. Like, people that play the lottery and win are happier than people that play the lottery and don't win. Obviously. Like, what? I don't think that's a good example.
Or we have to win the lottery.
That would be interesting.
Okay.
If one thing was clear at this point in the investigation, it was that lottery winners are happy as shit. So I had to speak to one myself. Timothy Schultz won the lottery in 1999, winning over $20 million in almost a day. So I'm here to speak to him right in our studio. My first question for you right out of the gate, Timothy, are you happy?
Most days, I try to be happy. I think so.
There it was, the look of someone who had enough money to be happy. And here was my chance to find out how he did it, so that one day I might look in the mirror and see my own face wearing that grin. So you interview a lot of lottery winners. Would you say the majority of the people that you interview are also happy?
Most people that I've met and interviewed overwhelmingly have been.
I don't like this line of questioning. I think it's flawed, because obviously it doesn't matter whatever your level of happiness or not happiness is. If you win a lottery, you're going to be happy about it, obviously. And then you're going to be optimistic about your life because obviously you won the lottery. But the lottery winners, let me see what percentage of people that play the lottery win. Okay, so they're talking about odds of winning, but I want like an actual stat of like people that win, because it's so tiny, and that's based on, people like this. If there's 5 numbers, you have a 1 to 144,000 chance here. You have a 1 to 7.5 million chance to win here. You have a 1 in 45 million chance to win. So it's like, and those are people that play the lottery. Not everyone plays the lottery. So few people win the lottery in the first place that using that as a parameter of happiness to say that, more money makes you happy, I think is a bit flawed, personally.
Happier, but it's not a black or white situation. I mean, the truth is that if you win the lottery, if you win a major prize, then who you are on the inside is really what matters, because who you are on the inside can be magnified. And if you're this terribly unhappy person on the inside, you might still be unhappy after the exhilaration of winning wears off.
Oh no, I'd come all this way only for Timothy, the podcast host / lottery winner, to tell me that the very nature of my investigation might be flawed.
Okay,
the true
good.
solution to happiness lay inside the soul rather than the wallet. I stood no chance. My soul is as black as my outside is white. Timothy, for the purposes of this interview,
There are poor people who are really happy because they're content, because they're not. If you're the kind of person that you feel like the fact I can travel, I'm just happy I can travel. I'm just happy I have a roof over my head. I'm just happy I have a car that takes me from point A to B, which is a position I think most people should be at. Then you're not past a certain amount of money, and like they said, the 70k threshold, you're probably not going to be any more happy the more you make. So yeah, I think that line of questioning was a bit flawed.
I'm gonna need you to tell me that winning the lottery is necessary. I'm gonna need to be incredibly wealthy to be happy. Because if I'm not incredibly wealthy, what's even the point? You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to basically, yeah. I mean, the truth is, you can do anything, whether you are incredibly wealthy or not. Dreams can come true, but it helps. It's a huge leg up if you have lots of money. I mean, or win a lottery, because you have more opportunities. Your quality of life can be better.
Good enough for me. I now had my marching orders. Over the course of my journey, my head learned lots of information, much of it unsatisfactory for men who enjoy talking a lot with their hands. In order to be happy, I've been told I needed 2 to 3 times as much money as I had. I've been told that true happiness lay in giving money away. I've been told I needed $75,000. Then I've been told I needed more than $75,000, ideally as much more as possible. Finally, here was something I could act on. I'd conclusively learned that...
Okay, we're going to stop this video here. I thought it was going to be a lot better than it was. I thought he was going to answer the question a lot better than he did. It just turned into some sort of like comical joke. It wasn't that useful, to be honest, but fair enough on the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments.